Welcome to the Frustrated by Your Marketing podcast, brought to you by Skyline Studio. I'm your host, Jim D'Amico.
And I'm your co-host, Madison McQuestion.
Our podcast will bring you the latest in marketing news and strategies for internal marketing teams, marketing specialists, and business owners.
So if you are frustrated by your marketing, then this is the podcast for you.
Welcome back to the podcast. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming to episode 4. For us, it's sort of like episode 2 because the first 2 were some practice runs, but thanks so much for being here. And last week was awesome. We did our 2023 marketing predictions, and I had predicted that paid social media was coming or was here, and got word this week that Twitter is going to only show Twitter Blue verified tweets in the For You section. So they're already putting a little bit of cap on stuff that's not paid. So I would say that's step 2 in this process of paid social media coming our way. And
we should have a little competition of our predictions. You're already ahead of me though. So
okay. I like it. Okay. So in December we'll count. We'll see who wins. So yeah, that's 1 point for me.
Which, if you haven't listened to that episode, you guys should go listen to that episode because the predictions one is really fun.
Yes, that one was great. It was maybe longer than the normal, although there's no set normal yet, so we'll see.
That's true.
I'm thinking that will probably be more like a 30-minute podcast, and that one was over 40, but who knows? Okay, this week the topic is reviews and reputation management for businesses and restaurants in particular. And we did a lot of research, and because of that, it's actually going to be a 2-part episode, or at least there's going to be 2 episodes. So we're going to talk about the generals of review management, reputation management in this episode, and then we're going to do an entire episode just on Yelp. I went down a Yelp rabbit hole doing the research. There's a lot of people who hate Yelp, and so I want to talk about that by itself. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit today as well.
I was going to say, we both respond to reviews fairly often, and for businesses, we both know responding is such an important thing, even though it can be difficult to respond sometimes, even depending on what kind of reviews come in or how they're talking about your business. But
yeah, I think once you've crossed the threshold from all 5 stars to your first likely 1 star, there's very, if you look at the chart of what kind of reviews people leave, they're pretty much 5s and 1s, and there's a few in the middle. Like very few people use the other ones. I mean, they do, but that's usually where it is. And so you want not as many 1s, obviously, and a lot more 5s. But once you cross that threshold and you lose that 5-star rating, which is really hard, and it's like a personal attack, it gets a little bit easier. And there's a lot of reasons why that's not the worst thing in the world. So if you look at a business, or if you look at something on Amazon, or if you look at something on Yelp, and they have 500 reviews and they're all 5 stars, probably start to question, is that possible? There would be, you'll see a 5-star rating, and then you'll click into the data and you'll see like, oh, okay, well, they've got, 30 1-star reviews, but, it still averages out to being a 5, and you trust it a little bit more. Those 1-star reviews help you to believe the 5-star review. So that's one thing that makes it a little bit easier. I know that it's hard to say this. It's easy to say this from here. But we're lucky right now. Skyline Studio has 5-star reviews. But one day we're going to get just no matter how good you are, you're going to not work well with somebody, right?
True. And that's the other thing too. I mean, as much as you, like you said, you want all these 5 stars reviews, a lot of times you just need to get in not great ones to help your business improve in a lot of different ways. So it's also taking it as people are helping you improve your business, because you're not going to be perfect all the time. So,
and if you take it that way, that's a good way to do it if it's legit. So there's also different types of reviewers. There are the reviewers that they think they're New York Times food critics, and their goal is to, write a 9-paragraph essay on, why your fries were too soggy or whatever the thing is. You're not necessarily, you don't really have to listen to that person. And, there might be little nuggets in there that are real, but that person's just looking for a way to hear themselves talk. But if it's, I know you respond to a lot of reviews for our clients, and if you're seeing something over and over again, and I know you see these patterns, as a general manager, as an owner, you should respond to those. So I don't know, and take that for what it is. So if you have dozens of people saying the wait is too long, well, then you should do something to mitigate that. What that is, I don't know, but that's maybe something in operations. And if you take that, that's a good way to react to them, and not, after you get over the initial, I'm so sad I've lost my 5 stars, or I'm so pissed that this person is, didn't come to me directly, which is what you should do as a person. You should go to the manager at the time and have a conversation, and they usually will fix things for you. But if you, now the person has chosen not to do that, they've left the review, you can then take these patterns and react to them and make your business improve, which is great.
I was going to say, I think I responded to probably 2 or 3 reviews today that were anywhere from 200 words to probably about 400 or 500. It was a ridiculous amount of word count. I mean, I didn't actually calculate it, but they were paragraphs long for just a specific review about literally this entire person's experience. And
now, were those good reviews or bad reviews? Or a little bit
bad
both?
Reviews.
Bad reviews.
Well,
okay.
It was kind of a mix, I guess. I would say there were more bad reviews that had that long of responses than like the good ones, I would say. And both of those were on Yelp, which is kind of funny because that's what we're going to be talking about next week. And you can definitely tell Yelp brings out the worst in people, for sure. I mean, compared to responding on Google, and we also do TripAdvisor. We don't do as much as of TripAdvisor, or I don't see as many come in, but Yelp is where it's at with the...
I do think Yelp brings out the worst in people, and it's, we'll talk about this next week. It's a little bit about their model, but they've really put the consumer in the driver's seat. It's not about the business for them. Even though the businesses are why everybody's there, and the restaurants are why everybody's there, for them it's about that consumer, the user, making them feel powerful. And that's, oftentimes that's what a review is about. So I had a great experience, and I want some credit for this great experience, or I want to brag about this great experience, I want to share this great experience, or I had this negative experience and I want some vindication. And so I'm going to write this book about it and I'm going to put it out there for everybody, and it's going to change the world. And usually it doesn't change much, except you've wasted 30 minutes, and hopefully the business doesn't get too upset about it. And they respond, and that's really what a big part of it is. So you do that every day, responding to reviews for our clients. And is no matter how much you don't like that review, you have to respond to it. Because if you don't, you look guilty. It's, if the person pleads the fifth on this, when they're up for trial, you just assume they're guilty, right? So you have to respond no matter what it is. And you can, if I was running my own restaurant review, or my own restaurant, and I was responding to reviews, I'd have some more fun with it. We follow the rules of the clients, and we follow, their tone. But I've heard and I've read restaurant reviews from owners where they will, not necessarily attack, but they'll tease or make it a little bit more flippant in their responses instead of everything being so serious. And I would do that, and I would have some fun. And that way, that way the person reading the review later. So I think most people, when they're responding to a review, think they're responding to that person. Now, if there's a specific thing, and there are reviews where it's like a specific thing. I came in for my mom's 50th birthday party, and
they can get really specific.
Right. You dropped the cake on the floor and you ruined it, and it'll never be the same. Like, you should respond to that person, and you should probably reach out, and they probably, again, should have mentioned it at the restaurant. But who you're really writing it for is the person who's looking for that type of restaurant, or looking to see if they want to go to your specific restaurant, and they're going to click on the reviews. And the first thing they're going to do is look at the 1 stars, because that's what everybody does. And they're going to see that review, and then your response is about, you're not writing to the person that wrote it, you're writing to the person who's reading it later in the future. That's who it is. It's your opportunity to market stuff. You can say, if it really happened, we messed up, we're really sorry, we don't do things this way. If the person's ridiculous, which a lot of the reviews are, you can respond in kind to that and say, it's not how we do stuff, or it's out of our control. I know you when we talk about reviews a lot, it's about the cost of goods, like they're going up. So people are mad that things cost too much.
So that's definitely a repetitive review that I see, that along with wait times.
Yeah. So just respond to that. It's out of our control. We're going through, unprecedented inflation right now. So things are going to cost more.
I think one of the stats that I found really interesting was that 89% of consumers read business reviews or like responses from businesses, which is super interesting because that's a lot higher than I thought. And that's stats from Bright Local, which is actually one of the platforms we use to respond to reviews, which is, we've had some difficulties with them sometimes, but also it makes it pretty easy to be able to respond to reviews on so many different platforms. But that statistic was a lot higher than I was thinking it would be.
Yeah, that is higher than I would have thought too. But again, that's the reason why. That's who you're writing it for. You're not, you're not writing it for the person who left the review. They might not even ever read your response.
Yep.
You're writing it for the person who's doing their research. And yeah, I love Bright Local. They're a great company. We're now looking to transition to Local Clarity for our review management for our clients. It's a little bit more robust, but Bright Local is a great, inexpensive option. Local Clarity is pretty inexpensive as well, but it's a little, it scales a little bit differently. But they both do essentially the same thing, because if you've got multiple locations, if you've got multiple brands that you're responding to, you need this to all come into one dashboard where you can see, first of all, what you have to respond to, and then you can see these trends. You can search for keywords, you can search for wait time, and you can see of the last, 20 one-star reviews, half of them mention wait time. Okay, that's a problem. Or you can see trends. Our Yelp reviews are going up, our Yelp reviews are going down. What's going on? Did we change our staffing? Did we change our menu? And things like that. So that's the reason we're switching. But I love both of the platforms. I think they're great. All sort of things aside from our little technical issues we've had with Bright Local. I do really like them as a company, and they're great for local SEO too. And I would say, if you're listening to this and you've got your own single location, you probably don't need software like this. You can just log into Google and Facebook and Yelp and handle those that way and have the emails come to you from those sources. But the second you get to two, and certainly once you're in the dozens of locations you have to respond to, you need some kind of software to organize that. It'll pay for itself in the time you would waste logging in, logging out.
Yeah.
You can respond directly to Google reviews in both of the software. You can respond. Well, actually, you would know this better than me. Can you respond directly to Facebook, or do you have to?
Yes. So Facebook is the other one that you can respond directly to. It's both Yelp and TripAdvisor that you cannot. So you can see them pop in there, but you have to specifically go and log into that platform and find the reviews and answer it, which at first was when I was getting used to it was a little bit weird, but now it's super quick and easy and not too much of a pain. The only pain I can see with Bright Local is when the accounts get disconnected, especially because we have so many different clients. But like you said, I mean, if you only have like one restaurant or one business, you probably don't need Bright Local. But one of our clients has 7, 8 restaurants underneath them. So it makes it really easy to keep track and respond to all the reviews fairly quickly.
Right. And so even though it's not letting you respond in the platform and have it go right to Yelp, it's directing you to the right account. So you click it, it'll bring you there, and you don't have to, again, it's saving you time. So you're paying them for time saving. That's really what you're doing for, and for organizations, so you don't miss them. Because again, if 89, I think you said 89% of people are reading those responses, that means 89% are reading no responses too. And so if you don't respond, they will see that, and that's bad. Because again,
yes, definitely.
You plead the fifth, you look guilty, and you don't want that. So I think, I think that's, if we had to give one message here is try not to get too upset. And, I'm saying this again, the second we get our first not 5-star review, I'll be depressed that day. It's going to happen.
I was going to say, it's hard not to take it personally if it's your business, for sure. Because, when I owned the coffee shop, we got definitely a couple of those. We didn't actually respond, though. I wish now that we would have. Actually, maybe not, because we were so young that we probably wouldn't have had great responses. But it's hard not to take it personally.
Yeah, it is. But, so try not to take it personally, and then always respond.
Yes.
So that, we'll continue to say this throughout the rest of this episode too, but I think those are the two most important things. Okay, so trying to talk about ChatGPT in every episode because it's our favorite thing. You mentioned that you had 2 400-word review or things to review to, and I know you've started to use ChatGPT in helping you to pen these responses. Did you use it in those cases?
Yes, I did. Actually, I've been using ChatGPT a lot more now, which I have a feeling some people probably aren't going to feel great about that, but it's nice for filtering out reviews and seeing the important things that people highlight in their reviews. Because sometimes people just like blab on about a lot of just random things that don't necessarily matter, even though they think that they do. So that's why it ends up getting to like 400, 500 words, because they just ramble on about their experience, which isn't a terrible thing, but it's nice because with ChatGPT, I can just like copy and paste, put it in there. And how I filter it out is I tell ChatGPT, I'm like, can you give me a 4 to 5 sentence response for this really long review? And it'll kind of filter it out. And so I don't copy and paste it into the review platform that I'm answering on. But I kind of almost use it as a little bit of a guideline to see what all was in that giant review, because it can take a really long time to read through that. Like, honestly, that probably would have taken me like 5 to 10 minutes to read through, and then answering it would have taken a really long time also. So the nice thing with ChatGPT is you can kind of use it to your advantage, but I definitely don't suggest just, copy and pasting it over, because some things definitely aren't correct in it. Like, a lot of times it says, oh, thanks for visiting our restaurant. But I always feel really weird, like, putting that in there, because
they're upset.
You should definitely personally use your business name. And so there's definitely things I don't put in there, but it's a nice little guideline for sure.
Yeah. And again, it's not about replacing you in this equation. It's about getting you to do the same amount of things in more time, so you have time for other stuff. So if it would have taken you 10 minutes to read the review and probably 10 or 15 minutes to summarize the review, and then 5 to 10 minutes to respond to the review, you're like pushing a half an hour for one review. This person doesn't deserve that. Our clients don't want us spending those types of resources. So in the past, we probably responded as best we could in 15 minutes. And now the summarization quality of ChatGPT, that is pretty much perfect. So it's going to boil that down. And then it gives you a guide where you can then add the human quality to the response. And that, probably took you 7 minutes instead of 30. And so, that's quality right there. That makes ChatGPT very, very valuable. We can do that, and we can give a better response, which is super nice.
And it's so helpful too, because another statistic I found interesting was 88% of consumers are more likely to use a business if the business owner responds to all reviews.
Okay.
And that's also another statistic from Bright Local, but
right.
Not just the good ones, not just the bad ones, responding to all of them, because it shows that they're active. And that's always nice as a consumer or a client, is seeing that the business owner cares enough to go see what people are complaining about or see what people are praising for their business.
Right. No, I think that's great. And, we keep talking about restaurants, obviously Yelp, in our case, the clients that we're doing these review responses and reputation management for are restaurants. It's a big deal in Yelp. It's, it's sort of the cornerstone of Yelp, which we're going to talk about next week. But this is for anything. So it could be a review of your software. It could be a review of your plumbing business. It could, the other reason why restaurants are a good good niche to talk about with this is that it's probably the most heavily reviewed, other than products on Amazon, the most heavily reviewed industry, right? Because people want to talk about their food. They want to, people love food. And that's why. But this applies to all the different industries, and you should be doing the same thing. So even though if you're running a plumbing business, you might get a review every month or so, you should try to get more. But let's say you're only getting every month or so, still respond. People want to see it. They want to know that you're friendly, and they want to know that you're someone they can trust. And they want to know how you would handle a problem. And that's almost part of it too. It's not, you're responding to the other person reading in the future, but part of what you're telling them is, if a problem happens, I will handle this well. I'm not going to be a jerk to you. I'm going to respond to you, and I'm going to make things right. And that helps, when people are making decisions, there's always what's that final thing that pushes you over the edge? And that might be one of them.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I think is super important too, is addressing the problem. If you have a bad review, because we've talked about 1-star reviews can be your friend, which I think is true, because you want to be able to address the problem back to them, like almost feed it back to them, so they know that you understand what they are upset about or what they are trying to comment on. And then the other thing too that we do with a lot of our clients is giving people the opportunity to reach back out on a more personal level, whether that's using emails or messaging, phone calls, because it's a lot easier to show somebody that you care about what's going on and you care about the review that they left and that you want to better your business.
Yes. And the added benefit and the main reason we do it is it also takes the conversation offline.
Yes, that's
instead of a back and forth with somebody who's upset, and even if you respond in the most civil, helpful way possible, that person might continue to stay irate. There's just some people you can't please, and now you've removed any of that back and forth from the review site, because you don't. Again, this is about future people, not about that particular person. Making it right is about that particular person. So you take it offline, you have a conversation. Restaurants are notorious for giving gift cards or come see us, we'll make it right next time. And once again, I'll say it, the customer really should have mentioned it to the general manager or the owner at the time, but people don't do that because they would have fixed it on the spot if they could have, in most cases, for good restaurants. But yeah, that'll sort of allows it to be fixed. So,
and I think all businesses at some point get those really random reviews too. I remember responding to one. This was obviously, I want to say when I kind of first started responding to reviews last year, there was one about a man who was really, really mad that he got kicked out of a restaurant. And so he was like almost being violent with his review. And like you said, that's one of those things where you want to try and get that conversation offline to be able to kind of fix it. I mean, that's one of those things where a lot of times you're just going to get really random reviews that are hard to respond to, but you've got to do it in the best way possible.
Right. And there are some cases, and I would say try to always take the higher road. The customer is always right, with the exception of when someone is being threatening or being accusatory of your business. And in those cases, you can respond a little bit more firmly. You also, if the person's using any profanity or any hate speech or any threats at all, you can usually get those taken down. The whole review can be correct. Like you might have actually kicked this person out and you might have actually been wrong. But if they start swearing or start threatening, usually the review sites will take that down and then you just make that go away. So use all of these review sites have a takedown request or report this review or whatever it is. So do that. You're not going to get a takedown request if the person says came down on a Friday night and I had to wait 2 hours for my table and my drink took 30 minutes to come. Like that's real and that's sticking. But if the person is saying I'm going to come down there and next time and I'm going to bring my buddies and we're going to tear this place up or whatever they're going to say, you can probably get that taken down. And you should, and that make it go away. And I would say in that case, don't respond until you've given it a little bit of time for that takedown request to simmer, because sometimes if you respond, then Google won't. They'll be like, oh, okay, well, they thought of it as legit, so why am I going to take it down? So we usually let it sit. And then, if a week goes by and it's still there, then you respond. So
I was going to say, I have another stat for you.
Okay.
So 53% of customers expect businesses to respond to negative reviews within a week.
Within a week. Okay.
And that's from review trackers.
Okay. So you have that week. I would say you should respond faster to the non hostile ones. And the hostile ones that you have a chance to get taken down, a week is probably perfect. And then you just, and hopefully, again, in some of these very high volume businesses like restaurants, hopefully 3 or 4 reviews have already gone on top of it and that one disappears. And
a lot of them I see too can be very repetitive. Like a lot of the ones I answered today or this morning, because I respond every single day of the work week, obviously. I think it's very interesting to see a lot of them are really repetitive. So like wait time, food coming out cold. There's a lot of other ones also, but sometimes too, once you respond to one, you can kind of change up your response to all the other ones as well. But obviously you don't want to be just like copy and pasting your answers is not a good thing.
Right.
And I know before we've had a document that we've gone off of and kind of learned the hard way not to do the copy and pasting thing. And now we're way more personal with our responses. And
right. So yeah, when we had the document, there was 10 different variations for each possible review scenario. And then we would, take sentence A and sentence 2, from A sentence 2 from section A and sentence 3 from section B or whatever, that doesn't make any sense, but you get the idea. And we combine those two, and then we do a different version of that for another review. But it's still over time needed a little bit more personalization, and it was taking longer. That sounds like that would be fast, but it took longer to do that than just to do the quicker review response, just from your heart, and also ChatGPT. So those two things are allowing us to be more personal.
One thing I've personally been doing is adding smiley faces on responses to 5-star reviews.
That's great. I love it.
Just because I think sometimes, I think it adds a more personal touch.
Yeah.
And I think it can make people smile if they go to see your responses for your reviews and they're like, oh, they look happy.
Yes. Smiley faces are always great. I love it. So the other thing I want to make sure we cover in this episode is asking for reviews and review gating, which is a tactical way to ask for reviews. So ask for reviews. Yes, everybody should do that. You want more. If you're a restaurant and you're getting dozens a week, you want 2 dozen a week. If you're a plumber and you're getting 2 a month, you want 5 a month. The more the better. For all of the stats that Madison has read before or earlier in this podcast, that's why you want them. You want fresh reviews. Also, there's a stat out there somewhere. I'm assuming that when you go to a plumber or a restaurant and if they haven't had a new review in 3 years, you assume something happened or that the reviews from 3 years ago were fake. So keep those coming. Ask for them. I know during your research for this episode, you read somewhere that the best way is to ask via email, which I think is good because you're not putting someone on the spot. So you send out an email. And the way we do review gating, which is against, I think, all the policies, but we still do it, is we send someone and we ask them to rate their experience, right? So come to this web form that we've created on our website and rate your experience 1 through 5, or ask different questions, however we do it. And then based on their rating there, which is in public, we kick them into 1 or 2 buckets. So if it's a bad experience, they go to a page where we say, we're so sorry about that. Please reach out if you've got any, if you want to talk about this more. And if they've had a good experience, we kick them to a page where we ask them for reviews. Again, pretty much against all the policies, definitely against Yelp. Yelp, even if you eliminate that, they don't want you asking for reviews, and they will hide reviews if they think at any point that you asked for it. So, but again, this is one of those rules that, I think is worth pushing a little bit. It's not like you're hiding, you have the ability to remove bad reviews that exist. You're just sort of stacking the deck a little bit in your favor.
Yeah, definitely.
And you don't want to ask the unhappy customer. Like, I'm not going to email someone who's unhappy with our work. Luckily, there's not that many of them. But I would never email that person and say, hey, would you leave us a review? That would be a foolish thing to do. So I email the people that done a great job for it. I'll ask them for reviews, and then they'll leave it for us. And with customers, asking for customer feedback is a great way to do things anyways, for all the reasons we spoke about before, to improve your business. And then, sure, you stack the deck a little bit in your favor and ask for those public reviews from the people that have responded in kind. So
I was going to say, I actually just ended up working on a couple of pages for review gating today for a client, because we've been doing so much more of that on our website since I mostly do website development and SEO. But I ended up creating one today, and yeah, I think it's a great thing. And that's the stupid thing about Yelp, is the fact that they don't like you asking for, personally asking for reviews, but that's what you have to do as a business.
That's
if
it.
you want to be able to get into reviews. And the other thing too is another statistic. Here we go. 87% of consumers would not consider a business with an average rating below 3 stars, which that doesn't totally surprise me, because I feel like I'm kind of the same way when I go look at ratings for businesses. And especially after COVID happened, there's like a 50% increase in people reviewing businesses now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But
I
also
think,
makes sense. So
yeah, people are angry since COVID. They had a lot of time to think, right? And I think just in general, we've become more public, and we think everybody cares what we think more. And in some ways we do. In some ways we don't. And I think that's part of it. And I think it'll be even more. I think that will continue to grow. It'll just become part of what you do every day. Everything will be reviewed. I mean, when you're in your Uber, you're rating that. When we do Instacart, we're rating the shoppers. When we're Amazon is built 100% on reviews. I make all of my purchasing decisions except for the stuff that I've gotten before based on reviews. So if I got it and I know I like it, I don't worry about the reviews. But I pay attention to those. Like, I'll read through dozens of reviews when I'm deciding between two things. So I definitely am a consumer of them, and they help. And and I look for the patterns where I'm like, oh, these are fake. This is clearly, this is sort of a quick aside. On Amazon, there's a habit or a practice of buying old successful product pages and swapping it out if they're in similar categories. So I don't know how it works on the back end, but basically I'm selling an LED light, right? And then the next thing is batteries, right? So they're both in electronics, but the LED light had great reviews. And so you'll look at this battery that is, a rechargeable battery that's garbage, and the most recent reviews are all 1 stars. And then you look way back and they'll say, this LED light's amazing. That I just made that example up, but I've seen that where it's literally a completely different product being mentioned in the reviews. And so they will ride, they kind of know their product stinks, and they'll ride those good reviews until they get taken down because it's that important. So
I was just laughing, like chuckling to myself because I was randomly thinking about Airbnb, because with Airbnb, you can rate the owner of the house or the host of the house, but then the host can rate you. Right. I was just thinking what it would be like if people could rate like customers they had.
Well,
I don't know why I was thinking about that. As a random thought I had, but
that's coming, I'm sure, because right now, Big Toast, which is the POS system for restaurants that I love the most, it's very user friendly. The restaurants we work with love it, and it's great from our perspective as far as marketing and integration. And right now, the waitress in a lot of these restaurants, not the more older fashioned ones, but they'll come up right to your table with a little tablet that's a Toast tablet, and they'll type, instead of having to go find where they're going to type in your order, they're typing it up at the table. So there's no notebook anymore, and there's no trying to memorize it and then forgetting it on your way to wherever you're going. And so that tablet is obviously tied to your table, at that moment. And so why couldn't they build that in where you could rate that customer and react accordingly? I mean, you do it. So you said Airbnb, in Uber, they're rating in reverse too. And they decide if they want to pick up that customer. I don't know if they do it in Instacart, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. So yeah, I see it going both ways. And maybe then people will be a little bit more kind if they realize that
I was going to say, and I'm sure there are people out there that, even if they maybe do have a good experience at a business, they will just complain anyways because they like complaining, but also like trying to get free stuff out of it, because we know some of our clients, if there's a bad enough review, they'll want to fix it in some way, which is good. But there are people that sadly take advantage of that.
Oh yes, a lot. I bet it's over 50% of negative restaurant reviews are looking just to hand out for gift cards. That's what they want.
Yeah.
And it's terrible, but it is.
Honestly, I'm not a reviewer. I haven't really reviewed businesses. I think it's because after owning a restaurant/coffee shop, I know that things go wrong in restaurants, and there are sometimes, things you can't do about it, and they're never perfect all the time. And so I don't really review. I probably should sometimes, but it's not my personality.
Yeah, I do it when I have excellent experiences. I should probably do it when I also have good. I never do it when I have bad, unless it's egregiously bad. So I will, if the burger's a little cold or it takes a little bit longer for the waitress to come, I look at, in most cases, unless I've expressly stated that we're in a rush, which, if I'm going out to eat, I'm usually not.
Yeah.
We got an extra half an hour at the table. That's not good for the restaurant. They didn't get to turn that table, but it's good for me. The one thing that bothers me the most is if it takes too long to get the check at the end, but I'll usually, give it 10 minutes and then I'll just walk up and find them and get it. So, because that sort of ruins the end if you're now ready to go. But I would never leave a negative review about that. Again, because I know the other side of it. So I feel like it's
same here. Yeah.
Okay, so let me look at our notes. Did we cover it all? I think we did.
I feel like we did cover most of everything. I think I had a couple of stats I didn't share, but I don't want to throw too many.
We can save those for next week. Okay, so next week will be a full why everybody hates Yelp. I don't know exactly what we're gonna.
I'm excited for this episode.
But I went down a rabbit hole this last couple of days on Yelp, and it became its own episode. So.
Which is fun because I still don't know a ton about Yelp. I mean, I respond on there, but I haven't ever dove deep into the Yelp platform itself. So I'm excited to learn a bunch from you about it.
Okay. Well, it's coming. It's coming next week. So now we're going to do our new segment, which I'm tentatively titling Unsolicited Marketing Feedback. Or maybe unsolicited marketing advice. One of those two. Let's go with feedback. Unsolicited marketing feedback. So I know I mentioned this in last week's episode, but it is a rebranding that is subtle and I think a mistake. And I'm curious what Madison's opinion of it is. It's the perfect first one because it's a sort of a coffee shop, tangentially, or like the way Dunkin' Donuts is a coffee shop. And Madison owned a coffee shop when she was in college. So she can speak to this from that. So I'm going to try.
I'm kind of nervous.
No, don't be nervous.
I remember you mentioning something about it, but
okay. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen through this software, and we're going to see if Madison can see it well. Hopefully, you have your screen all set to go. And then I'm going to show her what I think. Okay. I present to you the Bagel Dudes. Can you see the logo well?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a great bagel / coffee shop. We love going to Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and when we go there in the town of Chatham, which is our favorite place, they have a location on Main Street, and up until a few months ago, this was called the Bagel Shop. And so I got this, and I was like, wow, that's really, I'm not woke, but I feel like I was like, there's got to be a story behind this because this is not the direction you would take a restaurant, right? I'm sure there's a reason why they rebranded, and I'm guessing it wasn't marketing. I'm guessing the reason was they had to change the name because of some restructuring or something. So they went from shop, which is sort of a throwaway word, to dudes, which in my mind is if there's a story behind it. And I know that you had shared another coffee shop that has a story behind it, which I think is great. I would go with it. But otherwise, I feel like the word dudes means lower quality. I hate to say that about fellow dudes, but it's not necessarily high end. I don't know what I would replace it with. The bagel place, the bagel spot, anything else. The logo is exactly the same before. This just said shop. That's it. And that's it. So okay. I'll go back to you now. What do you think? Am I way off on this?
I mean, no, definitely not. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about it because I don't think rebranding is a bad thing, but also I don't necessarily agree with changing your business name unless you have to. And that's because when we opened up our coffee shop, I hated the original name that my business partners chose, but I was the third man out, so I had kind of no say in it. So we called it Bulletproof Brew House, which was already the name of a coffee shop. So when they wanted to name it that, I was like, we're going to get into some legal issues. And guess what? We did about 6 months later. So I was
interesting. I didn't know you rebranded. Yeah. Okay, so Bravado was originally Bulletproof Brew House, and there was another Bulletproof Brew House.
Yes, in California. But I was like, I feel like we're going to run into some legal issues with this. We did. We got a fat letter in the mail, but freaked my business partners out. And I didn't want to be like, I was right. But good. But I mean, I was like, I hated the name originally to begin with because I don't know. I didn't feel like it was original. But I think with rebranding your business name, I think it can not be a great thing unless you have to do it. But I agree with you that the Bagel Dudes does sound a little bit like, I feel like there's going to be people that really, really like that name, but also I think you're going to have a really big divide on people who do like it and people who don't like it, because it's one of those things where if somebody doesn't like the name, they might not go. The logo's pretty cool. I don't like the logo. The place
is amazing. The other interesting thing is I never saw a male employee in it once.
Okay,
all
interesting.
Girls.
But you said it didn't have a story to the name, or you were trying to find out.
So anyways, I looked, in research for this, and when I first got the email, I was like, there's got to be in the about here, it's got to say, if I look here, it's got to be like, two dudes that met and they've been friends for forever, and we wanted to honor that or something like this.
Which I think that's a great story behind the name if that was true.
Right. And so also, you had mentioned these guys, Dutch Bros, in one of our teaser episodes, and this is literally same thing, right? So
They're
Dutch Bros.
literally, yes,
It's literally bros. They were friends and they started a coffee shop. So if there's a reason behind it, I like it. But I feel like when you're, and bros and dudes, I feel like bros is a little bit more of a leg up as quality. I don't know, maybe not.
Agreed.
Or it's a little bit kitschier, so it works. But yeah, if you're going to go down this road, think about all these things. And I'm not woke, but I found this jarring to myself too. People might just not go, and maybe, I don't know, maybe people won't want to work there. Like it's all like, I'm curious when I go there next.
How long did they have their other business name? Like how long have they been in business? Because I feel like that also is a very big thing. Or did it change like management or owners?
They had it for 7 years and then they changed it. So yeah, I just find it very interesting that
there's a lot of reasons why I'm not totally fond of it, just because I don't know, once you build up a clientele and then suddenly just changing the name.
Again, there are reasons you have to change the name that are not branding, and I think that's probably what was going on here, but they had a golden opportunity to change other things. They potentially should have taken the lesson from Dunkin' Donuts, who is now Dunkin', because nobody wants donuts because of carbs. And same thing with Bagel Shop. I mean, they could have gone the coffee route. They could have gone, which is a big reason why people go to those types of bagel places. I know it's for bagels too, but coffee is a big part of it. They could have gone the breakfast lunch route. They could have, instead of just that quick, probably without much thinking, oh, Dudes is good enough, they could have taken an opportunity to expand their brand. And I feel like they missed it. And I feel like somehow this is going to be a bad rebranding for them. So
yeah. Also, I mean, I do like the logo, but I also thought it was Boggle at first when I looked at it, which is why I was like so close to the screen.
Like the Boggle dudes.
Which is why I was so close to the screen, because it looks like a coffee cup, isn't it?
It's
Even
a coffee cup with kind of a bagel
shop?
in it and a little coffee bean. It looks better in other ways.
It did take me a minute to read it. I think it's like smart. I always think it's really fun with logos to do something like that, but it did definitely think it was an O. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. So anyways, this is my advice to them was that they should have given more thought to this and not likely just picked it. Or if there is a story behind it, follow the lead of Dutch Bros out of Klamath Falls, right? They said they started.
So they started in Medford, which is, or I think something like that, Medford or one of those things. But they ended up starting there, and now they're moving all the way across country. I know that one of my friends just opened the first one in Tennessee, which is super cool.
Awesome.
But they've been making their way across country. But they have a cool personal story, and people like, seeing personal stories with businesses because
absolutely
it's just that business trust. And so if they were calling it the Bagel Dudes because of a personal fun story reason, that would totally make sense. So if they do have a personal story, they should share it.
They should definitely add it. And if they don't, they should make one up, because it will make it better. I don't know if I was sitting down with them when they were making the decision, I probably would have tried to talk them out of it no matter what. But now that it's here, I think they need to either make up a story or find a story, because it'll soften it a lot. And I think Dutch Bros when I was just on that page, it was 1992. Things are different in 1992. So now, you're doing this in 2023. I don't know if you bring dudes into a business. I don't know if that works, especially when it's an industry, again, it was all female employees. So again, do they want to work there? And anybody can go to it. If you picked a male dominated industry, where they're the higher consumer, sure, of course you name it Dudes, but this is for everybody, and it just sort of falls flat. It's not funny enough. It's not interesting enough. And I think it's a mistake. So, thank you for agreeing with me.
Yeah, so that's fun to look at. I like this new segment that we have going on.
Yeah, me too. So I don't know if they always have to be a surprise, but I guess you could surprise me next week, or we could just pick one. But we'll try to always do one of these.
I think the surprise is the fun part.
Okay. So you surprise me next week with something that you like or don't like, and it doesn't always have to be negatives. It could be it's feedback, unsolicited. So that's why it's got to be feedback and not advice. So unsolicited marketing feedback, and so we'll we'll give our opinions on stuff, and some of it can be good. So
sweet. I'm pumped for next week.
Okay,
It'll be a fun episode.
Yeah. So I guess our episodes are 45 minutes long because here we go, 45. Thank God we didn't try to fit the Elf something because it would be a 2-hour episodes. But they're good. They really do go fast for us. And I know I said this last time. Hopefully it's fast for everybody else too. I find it interesting. I've loved doing the research for it. It's been fun. And I love recording it. So we're going to keep at it. And we will see you next week for a deep dive into why everybody hates Yelp or some other title similar to that.
Yeah. And don't forget to subscribe and like us and find us on YouTube and all that fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Like, subscribe everywhere. We're almost everywhere now. So we're still not on Amazon Music. I'm working on that, but we're on Pandora. We're on Stitcher.
Find us on Instagram for updates.
Instagram, Facebook, all this stuff.
LinkedIn.
We're not on LinkedIn yet.
We aren't?
It's on the
I thought
list.
we were.
I mean, we've mentioned it on LinkedIn, but that's on the list. So a lot of stuff, building a podcast. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to do an episode on podcast marketing. So that's coming too. Well, that's all I got. That's all we got. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
For tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.